Here you are, Mr. Christian Pacheco, CEO of PIA. How are you, sir?
Good, Kevin. How you doing, man?
I'm doing well. So it's the end of my day. I guess the start of your day.
Yeah, fresh and early out here.
Yeah. What time is it there?
Just hit 6 a.m.
All right. So hopefully you're used to those early or late night, early mornings. Which one do you prefer?
I prefer the early morning,
Yeah.
definitely. Yeah,
Yeah.
more of a morning guy. Yeah.
Oh, good. 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 So I've been waiting for this one for a while because you guys bust on the scene. Just maybe what 12 months ago, 18 months, not 18, maybe
Yeah,
12, something like
yeah.
that.
12, just on 12 months in a few weeks. Yeah.
Yeah, and I see you guys everywhere.
Yeah, we're trying to sort of get out there and spread the name and spread the word of peer, and we seem to be going to as many events as we can. So yeah.
Yeah, I see Mr. Tim out there spreading the gospel at every event. So yeah, very good stuff.
Absolutely, man. That guy's a machine.
He is a machine. So you've got a pretty interesting backstory leading up to Pia. Um, let's kind of get into it. I mean, normally I always ask about the whole how you got here. Actually, no. Let's start with let's start early days. Let's start with how you got into tech.
Yeah, cool. It's actually probably when I was about 15, 16, I started, reading about tech. Sort of just picked it up really easy, understood concepts really easily very early on as a teenager, and um, did really well at school in tech without really having to try too hard. Um, and I sort of, from there, I sort of thought this is for me, and went to, university and the rest of it. But from a corporate perspective, worked for my first job was, working on an IT service desk as a level one when I was like, 18, 19 years old for a recruitment company. And then that sort of, got headhunted out of there um, from, back then what was called an integrator. Um, and, MSP wasn't really, the word MSP or the acronym wasn't really floating around too much back then. It was sort of just like, break fix integrator or, IT partner. And, got headhunted by one of those guys, and you know, worked my way up through the ranks and studying, ended up being basically a business intelligence consultant within sort of the space of 5 years, and did some pretty decent consulting gigs for some pretty large companies, and especially around digital transformation consulting gigs, and from there, when I finished my studies, I was always working and studying at the same time. I sort of just you know, I did what, I guess what IT can, do to a lot of us. I gained a lot of weight. I was pretty unhealthy. And I just took a bit of I thought to myself, I'll take a year or two off from IT. And, my contract finished and I just basically resigned. And I went and opened up a few restaurants actually. So
Hmm.
that's sort of my entrepreneurial journey. And whilst I was doing that over, it was meant to be a couple of years, ended up being about 4 years. I was always getting calls to come back into the sector. And about in the fourth year of that sabbatical, I came back into the space to do some consulting, and the firms I was consulting for basically turned around and said, hey, like, we completely agree with your analysis and your review, but we want you to actually implement the outsourcing model. So they were going from an internal IT model to an outsourcing model, which I recommended, and basically from there started virtual IT group, the MSP. Um, and then, so that was sort of very early on in terms of the story of, of how I got into tech. Oh, lights went out. um, yeah. So it's one of those things where I always felt it was for me. Um, and it was just sort of easy to do. So, sort of fate, if you will, sort of led me down the path.
Yeah. So what happened to the restaurants? What kind of restaurants were they?
Well, yeah, man, my mum's Italian.
Oh,
So I've got, very my first language is Italian, man. So like, very sort of rooted Italian over here in Australia. And so Italian wood fire pizzerias, and big spaghetti houses and stuff like that. So I ended up opening 3 um, in a very short period of time, and figured out how hard it was to make money in hospitality.
Mm.
So getting back into IT seemed like the logical thing to do after doing 16, 17-hour days in hospitality for sometimes not a lot of money. So yeah.
Is there a big Italian influence in Australia?
Yeah, it's a massive culture over
Yeah.
here, and there's a huge influence. Big in Sydney, even larger in Melbourne, Victoria. So yeah, huge Italian presence.
Ah, very cool, very cool. So the tech side of the world it came natural, and then it's great that you started. So many can relate to. You started as a grunt, right? Started on the front lines.
Yeah,
On
man.
the
I
help desk.
started grinding it out in the MSP world about 10 years ago. It was just me and one engineer.
Mm.
Like literally built it up from the ground. Um, and I was trying not to be technical, even though I had a technical background. I was really trying to get out there and promote the business, and find myself stuck on the tools and having to do a lot of mundane tasks that was taking up a lot of my time.
Mm.
And I thought to myself, damn, like I know it's only me and one other guy, but I should be out here, promoting the business, not really doing, password reset
Right.
or a simple ticket. But when you're starting a business and you're small, you do what you've got to do, right,
Mm-hmm.
to make sure it's successful. And I think even as you get larger, you do what you got to do to make sure it's successful. And we took the business up. We had some phenomenal growth. I think year 2 we did 2.5 million in revenue. A lot of it was recurring in the MSP. By year 5 we're doing 25 million organic growth, and then we started an acquisition strategy. And the MSP now does circa 100 million revenue. And when we're growing, we're going through that growth. We having the pain points very early on, or having to do technical tickets myself,
Mm-hmm.
and then seeing the continual mundane tasks, and I guess the lack of not necessarily, it is a lack of focus from the engineer, but they were just getting bored doing these tasks, man. Like it was just like, oh damn, I got to do like another password reset. I've got to do, I've got to reset this guy's VPN again. Like it was just like the stuff that's easy. That sort of, you might do it for the, being a new engineer. You're like, yeah, cool, happy to do it. But doing that shit for 2 years, excuse my French, is it gets pretty tired pretty quick, right? So, I thought, I had to look in the market, and I started, looking around for automation products, probably about 7 years ago, 6, 7 years ago. And I thought to myself, there's really nothing out there that's sort of drawing a line in the sand that's automating the actual labor side of service desk.
Mm.
So we started investing in a RPA, platform workflow platform back then. And we had we had a lot of great success with our customer base in VITG, and it basically got to the point where we're showing phenomenal growth and able to sustain profitability with that growth. And we're in our peer groups, and we're showing our strategy and our numbers to our peers, and a couple of them are just like, man, how are you achieving like north of 20% EBITDA, and growing so fast?
Yeah,
And I
that
was like,
clip. Yeah.
I was like, well, we've got a good management process. So, but we're really, strict and diligent on automation and what we do at the service level. And they sort of said, can you show us what we're doing? So we showed them, the technology, and they're like, oh, well, where are you licensing this from? Like, like who's providing you with the platform? And we're like, well, we actually built it ourselves. And they're like, well, can we license it from you? And it's sort of a light bulb moment, right? And
Mm-hmm.
we're just like, well, we can test it out with a few partners.
Mm-hmm.
And man, very quickly we got a lot of interest in Pia as a product, and here we are today, 12 months in. We've got, we just hit over 100 partners in PIA, and we're pretty pumped about what we're doing.
Yeah, you should be, and it's great because a lot of the great solutions that we see out there are born out of necessity, right? It's born out of solving, in that case, right? It's such a repetitive, mundane task oftentimes.
Oh,
Right? How to
look,
get that
man,
level of automation. Yeah.
absolutely. I sort of knew, labor costs and all that were going to increase. They had been year on year, but man, I completely fluked timing, in terms of like what we're seeing out there. Like we did it for we built PIA for ourselves and as an MSP, and the timing just happened to be so good where, the last 5 years, I think labor costs have gone up 60-70%.
Yeah.
And, it looks like they're going to continue to go up another 15-20% over the next couple of years. And, for, a small MSP, a large MSP, doesn't matter how big you are, that really impacts you. Labor impacts, the business, it impacts the P&L big time. And,
Absolutely.
having a product that can sort of, slow that down, and mitigate the risk associated with cost of labor. I think at the point in time, we're just lucky in terms of point in time, but I guess you make your own luck sometimes, right?
Absolutely. So we'll kind of get into PIA and the solution because it's, again, it's a fascinating area, but you're kind of nonchalant about the growth going, within 5 years to 25 million.
Yeah.
I don't know what this is. This is definitely a made up statistic, but it feels like 99% of MSPs, don't get to 25 million in revenue, and here you're doing it in the first 5 years. So aside of solving some of these automation challenges, like what how do you grow that fast? Was it right market, right time? Is it there other competition in kind of where you are, or what are some of the keys to success?
We're a little south of Sydney, so competition's the hottest in our area, in terms of geography. We've got the most MSPs in the country, sort of within a 100-kilometer radius of where we are.
Wow.
I think in terms of how we went to market, and I guess the requirement for we really went to market as a boutique MSP, focusing on automation and digital transformation, right, for our customer, and not providing the customer with necessarily automation in terms of their processes, but automation of our service desk to provide great fast results. And a lot of the customers we were talking to, man, they're just like, we got to wait 3 hours for a password reset. Like in some instances, and I'm just like, so you're like just completely losing those 3 hours.
Yeah.
Straight off the bat for that day, like your productivity just, falls through the floor. So, we sort of showed them what we're doing from an automation perspective, and, we're winning a lot of business very early on, just doing some really basic, back then just scripting. And then out of that, we built a complete platform, which is PIA today. So that was a big deal. I think how you go to market and how you represent yourself in the market is very, very important.
Yeah.
I think the thing that we found too is being cheaper isn't the best, in our experience, isn't the best way to approach the market. You think you're going to get more volume, but you don't. It's sort of a race to zero if you sort of take that approach. So we went in, really well priced. We offered a boutique service, and it sort of just, looked after us really well. So yeah.
Yeah, if there's any takeaway from this is cheapest is not always best, and that's probably the one area that most MSPs struggle with, right? Is their value, is projecting their value and getting paid, what they're worth.
Yeah, like if you're lucky as a small MSP, you're lucky to sign a few customers a year, right?
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to be signing those customers up, on the cheap. You want to be making sure when you sign them up, they're profitable, they're strategic, they're engaging you. Right? The guys that don't want to pay for proper services, they're not going to be strategic for you. They're not going to be provide you with a long-term partnership that you want as an MSP owner, right? They're just sort of there to, in my opinion, to sort of, get you to do stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and then, sort of just push you to the side. And, for us, that's not the model that we wanted to engage in when we started our MSP, and we sort of, continued down the path of growth. It was always, strategic customers that want to invest in IT, not spend.
Mm-hmm.
Like the guys that would do it the guys that sort of just want everything on the cheap. They're just like, oh, we got to spend so much money in IT. Well, we were looking for the customers that were talking about investing in IT. So, the one thing we did really well too was, very early on, which a lot of the market wasn't doing 10 years ago, was, basically, qualifying the customer and, saying no.
Yeah, another area that just most MSPs failed miserably at, right? And it's that, we probably do a whole episode on the psychology behind that, and insecurity and all that stuff. But yeah, definitely some solid takeaways. So you're scaling, you're figuring out internally that you need to solve for these problems. Automation's key, and you're coming off of your mantra, or you're building around this concept of digital transformation, and then you start to internalize that and start working on that digital transformation internally to make you guys more efficient, more profitable at the end of the day. And then you get a couple of contemporaries saying, what are you guys doing? Then you start down this path of trialing, kind of building out trial and error. So I guess, when did you realize, you said you might have something there, but when did it really hit you that, gosh, you can productize what you've created, well, with this idea of PIA, and then start to take out to the market?
Yeah. So we, after the conversations with, the beta clients, with the beta partners, we realized we had something really special, and it was in its infancy, right? So there's still a lot to do. And there still is a lot to do, which is really exciting. But that coupled with us doing a lot of research in the sector around what was out there, and if there was something similar or, professing to be similar to what we're doing. And there just wasn't, which is also very exciting for us in terms of a first market mover opportunity. And then at the same time, we got our certificate of grant for our innovation patent, which really sort of stamped what we're doing and it being very unique. So we've got a full innovation around the innovation patent around the platform. And I think that sort of was a secondary light bulb to go, damn, like maybe we do have something really cool here, and we can take it to market. And so we started, heavily investing in PIA in terms of not only the platform but the go-to-market at that point.
So did COVID impact kind of timing and coming to market, or did you guys have more time during that period to develop the solution?
Yeah, I'd say we had a lot more time to develop the solution, although we got busier. It was sort of a catch-22. We're expecting to have more time, but we got super busy in the MSP, and PIA was very much a part of the MSP, and it wasn't called PIA back then. I originally framed it as Omelette, which it's a weird name, and marketing. I wanted the company to be called Omelette, man. I reckon that's a cool name, but marketing wouldn't let me do it when we had the GTM meeting, and but Omelette stood for Orchestrated Machine Learning Intelligence Tool.
All right, I got you.
It was Omelette. I thought we could have got a lot out of that, but marketing was just like, no, we can't. So the name PIA actually came from the innovation patent, which was titled Predictive Intelligence Agent. Right. So we've got an innovation patent on a predictive intelligence agent platform, and that's where we got the acronym PIA.
I don't know. There's something to omelet, but we'll go with PIA. PIA works. Yeah, that definitely works. So I imagine you guys are doing a ton of R&D, a ton of investing back in the solution, and I do like, oftentimes when I talk to CEOs, especially ones that have come from MSPs or still attached to MSPs, they can incubate those products and then it's kind of like their own lab where they kind of develop the solution, and then they get to the point where they bring it to market. But I imagine that because you talk about orchestration, you talk about automation, and just how complex, increasingly complex, systems and networks and external, internal, what have you are. I mean, so you're constantly evolving the solution. I mean, what's that development like?
Yeah, it's expensive. Like we absorb the costs so the MSPs don't have to,
Mhm.
right? So like the big thing is, a lot of MSPs, large and small, they can't afford to have an R&D and and then a development and automation team sitting there just trying to develop these bespoke platforms for their organizations. Like it's very expensive, and success rate isn't that high. Like you can say, I'm going to hire 2 automation guys, I'm going to hire a platform dev, and maybe an analyst to do some research and see what's out there and give us ideas. But you're looking at those 4 guys are going to cost you $600,000 or $700,000
Yeah.
a year, and you're rolling the dice. Like that may not eventuate to anything. So we take a lot of the burden and the brunt of development and integrations and helping the MSP get more from day one with PIA without having to spend a lot of money. And that's, as a barrier for entry for me as an MSP owner, that was a huge sort of, I guess, red flag for me with a lot of products. If there was a cost barrier for entry, or the friction from a price perspective, then we just wouldn't do it as an MSP. We're just like, man, that's incredible. Like we can't pay that kind of money to get that platform, and then still have to do a lot of the work ourselves. A lot of the guys are just sort of promising a great platform, and then you're like, oh, well, I still need 2 or 3 automation engineers, and I still need other guys to perform the development and tasks, and they may not get it right either on the platform. The platform makes it easier, but they may not get it right. So we do a lot of research in the market. We see what's out there, and we try and provide an end-to-end product where MSPs don't actually have to do development if they don't want to. Yeah, we've got a full back-end RPA, and they can plug scripts and there's a dev capability there. But if you don't have the capability internally, you don't have to do anything. You can just wait for the the peer updates, which we're doing hot fixes on product and updates every second day, and then we're doing we got a 2-week sprint for major releases, and we got a pretty serious development team, development operation teams, 50 staff.
Wow.
So we're invested heavily in making sure that from a platform and growth perspective, growth of the platform, that we're doing everything we can to stay ahead of the game and forecast what are the next integrations that MSPs are going to need, what are the next automations and packages that MSPs are going to require based on Microsoft releasing their new next piece of the platform, whether it's Office 365 or Azure. So we're going out there and actively building things ahead of time, and providing more integrations for the MSP, so they can do less if they choose to.
Yeah, saying that I think it was probably the Kaseya event, the Connect event out in Las Vegas. I can't remember if standing next to Daniel or if it was Tim or somebody on your team, and they had I guess it was a prospect come up, and they were kind of running through, it's kind of a demo up on the screen, and you don't often see an MSP's jaw drop when they start to, you can see them calculating, the impact of a platform like this on their bottom line, the efficiency, and you can see them, like you visibly see them calculating, labor costs, in their head. And a couple products, we were fortunate, we had a product like that where it was like high impact. It was like, really easily understood, and you could see what the outcomes would be. And that's got to be pretty gratifying, taking from, a product from, trying to solve an internal need to bring it out to market and seeing others saying, holy crap, how come I haven't seen you guys before?
Yeah, look, absolutely. It's definitely gratifying, man. Like seeing people's faces and, you can see the cogs turning. They're trying to do the numbers in their head, and sometimes it might be based on labor cost savings. Sometimes it's projecting not having to spend any more money in growing. So like the arbitrage they get on the growth revenue, rather than oh dang, I've got to spend 40% of my growth I've got to attribute to labor, right? That you can you can sign another, you can deploy PIA, grow 20-30% comfortably, and not deploy any more headcount on your service desk. That's the real exciting part, and having a product where we can speak from the heart about what MSPs experience, and because we grew it from an MSP basically doing $1 revenue all the way up to $100 million, like we can actually attest to and prove out that it doesn't matter what size MSP you are, you need automation, right? Like you need a platform as good as PIA in your business. So that's really exciting, and the fact that a lot of the guys in PIA as well, they're the founding management and developers of that department in the MSP. We've just picked them up and moved them to PIA. So these guys have had decades in MSP world, and we got those guys in to specifically build it out with their experience. Like Terry Irons, our CIO and CISO, like that guy there, like he's been in MSP land for 30 years, and he looks at it. He's the most skeptical guy you've ever met, right? Like he's technical, very consultative. He's very good at very much an analytical approach to everything, and definitely one of the most skeptical guys I know anyway. And when we were building this out, very early on, he's like, man, it's like, you sure you want to throw $2 million at that, and it may not work, and what you're trying to do is pretty crazy. And I'm like, yeah. I said, let's give it a shot, and let's see what comes of it. And then sort of as it was progressing, they're like, yeah, I don't think it can be done. Sort of turned into, yeah, maybe it'll work. And then Terry was like, the one of the impact, like mentally for me, one of the impact moments was, when that guy turned around a few years ago and went, man, holy shit, like we've got a serious product here. Like there's a lot of potential with this. And he goes, I didn't think we could pull it off. And it's that was a really exciting part for me, because the guy's really skeptical. So like him having that experience of 30 years from integrator to MSP, and that guy's worked across outsourcing entities that used to do work. He used to work in New York with Merrill Lynch, and he's seen it all from a 5-seater organization to a 20,000-seater organization. And he said to me, he goes, this platform applies to every size customer, end customer. So that was really exciting to be able to share those stories and share the pain, share the pain of what the MSP community goes through at all levels, ownership, management, the service desk themselves, L1, L0, taking a phone call, man. There's so much pain in that service process, and we can really relate to it because we've done it, man. We've experienced that pain point on the service desk, and through all sizes of MSP because of our growth. So yeah, that's in terms of for me, that hits a chord with me. Like it really sort of plucks at the heartstrings in being able to push the message across to the MSP community. And what we're trying to do now is just really improve in any way, shape, or form how the community is offering their service. So that this is super exciting, man. we're talking to we talk to about 100 MSPs a week, and what we are seeing now is like there are a lot of MSPs that are struggling with this exact problem. So we want to help them where we can. And sometimes we can't, man. Sometimes we say to them, look, we can't help you right now. Like it's only probably 1% of the cases,
Mm-hmm.
but we apply the same model as our MSP, where if you don't want to be a strategic partner, we don't want you as a customer,
Right.
right? If you want to be strategic and you're ready to invest in automation as an MSP, then we want you as a partner. But if you're not ready, we'll just tell you. We'll say, guys, you're not ready. And in some instances, like we've had customers sign contracts, so we've actually said to them, go, like maybe come back in 4 to 6 months after, you get your head around what we're trying to do. And they're trying to, I think they look at it more like an RMM tool, sort of just like, deploy it, try and get it for the best price you can, and it's just going to sit there and do nothing. But it's an RPA engine. It's not just some chatbot sitting there, yapping to you. It's an RPA engine with a back end. There's a lot of exciting things we can do to help your business, but you got to want those things to happen. So we really take the same strategic approach that we used to with an MSP customer, where Peer is a boutique software, it's a boutique provider. We only want strategic partners, and that message has been very successful. Like I said, we just signed 100 partners, or just over 100 partners, and we've been in business for 11 months tomorrow.
Oh wow! All right, it's coming up on that anniversary. Now, that's exact right, mentality, because on both sides of the table, right? It's a failure to implement, and then and oftentimes MSPs are also guilty of this, right? It's kind of that new shiny object syndrome, and they don't realize that maybe they realize it at the moment that they need, but they get back, they're just not mature enough, or they're just not ready for it, and so it's got to be the right time, right fit, and so but I'm sure they end up inevitably coming back around because of the impact that you guys will have. So you're at this really interesting intersection now, and it's about AI, it's about automation, it's about all these different pots of technology coming together and creating efficiency. So where do you see this going? I mean, you're investing so heavily in R&D and development. Like, so what are the big milestones over the next year that you guys are building toward?
Oh man, we got some exciting stuff happening. So obviously, integrations with other major platforms. I think we got our Halo beta releases in 3 weeks. So we're going to be bringing in. We already integrate with Halo at some level, but we've got like for like integration now. So the same level as ConnectWise and Autotask, PSA.
Awesome.
And so that's really, really exciting. So that's going to be in beta for a very short time. We've already done a lot of testing on it. We're going to get a couple of beta partners on it, so that we should see that released to market around September. So that's really exciting in terms of the actual platform and the technology side of things. Man, this is where it really gets interesting in terms of partnering with us and coming along for the journey. So the next big release will be what we've called Peer Smart Forms. And it's basically, it's an end-to-end automation solution in terms of it's a piece of the product where, Peer actually sits and communicates with the end customer, and the automation occurs without the engineer's assistance or very little assistance. So at the moment, Peer is in what we call engineer mode, engineer assist mode, right? Mm-hmm. So basically, the ticket comes into Autotask or ConnectWise PSA right now, and the engineer will sit there. Peer will read the ticket. It'll pop up with some options around what to do, and then the engineer will go, yeah, let's do this, bang, 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 bang. And Peer will start doing the ticket for you, with the engineer looking at it, and the engineer having to sort of plug in bits of information, and Peer goes off and does it, right? With Peer Smartphones, we're basically creating a portal for the end customer of the MSP to put the ticket in directly. So it's a ticket portal.
Mm-hmm.
But what we're going to be doing through the smart forms is collecting data in a way where Pia can actually confidently do the ticket end to end without the engineer's assistant, just communicating with the end customer.
Wow.
Right. So we're doing that. There's going to be, it looks like about 15 automations that we're going to be releasing, between 10 and 15. I think it's going to be 15 that we're going to be releasing as it's an additional side product. So you don't have to. Well, the other thing what's really exciting about this is to use Pia AI Desk, which is the full platform, right? So it's the full backend platform, the RPA, the agent, everything. That's one side of the product. You can just buy Pia Smart Forms and start doing the 15 automations to test it out, right?
Wow.
And then come across to the full RPA environment if you think there's, like I said, that maturity level, right? So with Pia Smart Forms, you can go in and you can start to do, probably the 15 automations that we're focusing on. They're the top 15 problems for MSPs.
Sure, I was going to ask. Yeah,
right? They're the top 15. So a lot of it's around user management, right? Permission sets, user management. So we're going to automate all of that for you at the customer end. So by the time the ticket hits your board, it's completed with, stamped, updated. We can automate it to, go into timesheets, right? So if you've got an ad hoc metric for your service, we can say, you want to charge a 20-minute block for this. Historically, the data historically shows that it takes 27 minutes for your engineer to do this. We can charge 27 minutes for you and just put it in a timesheet for you.
Wow.
Right. So we can stamp timesheets and do all that sort of thing. And then the full, that eliminates obviously a big element of having to triage a ticket also. So we're actually triaging the ticket for you, communicating back with the end customer, which, is going to, from a customer sentiment perspective, them being able to do things on the fly is super impressive, right? And most MSPs actually have, an individual or group of individuals in their end customer, which, have authority to do and request a lot of those activities. So, you can send it out to one end user that's supporting, that may be supporting, 40 people in terms of, they've got authority to do password resets and, profile updates and permission requests, or you can send it out to everybody to do it. It's completely, flexible in how you want to approach it. So that's the next, really exciting piece of the product release.
So this Venn diagram of automation, efficiency and margin, right? I mean, at the center of it, because you're taking, you're having an impact on all three of those, areas and then some, right? I mean, I see where you're saying, the scalability of that of an MSP, even on the small and smaller end of the MSP world, just starting with that kind of solution could have a material impact on them just getting off the ground.
Yeah, we're doing hundreds of thousands of tickets now in Pia. Like we're reviewing hundreds of thousands of tickets, every 2 days.
Wow.
Right, because we got 100 partners now, so the data's there's a lot of data coming. There's a lot of science behind what we're looking at, and we're like, these top 15 automations that we want to automate end to end, having with the end customer. Man, that in some MSPs they make up as large as 65-70% of the requests coming in.
Yeah.
Right, but as little as 40, about 40-42%, but still a big chunk. Right, so you look at that and you say, if Pia can automate 40-50% of my tickets coming in, because with the end customer directly, let's just say if you need approval or whatever because they're higher spec requests, the engineer has to do very little. They're literally just reading through a very well presented form. It's easy to understand, easy to go through. Yep, bang, approve. They don't even have to do the ticket anymore. They don't have to log into Office 365 or Azure. They don't have to log into the AD server. they don't have to communicate with the customer. They don't, lose track of where a ticket is, or, go on a toilet break and the customer's waiting, or, man, it's my lunch break, I'll just put the customer on hold. None of that happens anymore. So, customer sentiment goes through the roof. Engineers are happier because they're doing less mundane tickets, right? And they can actually focus on strategic or, more value creating activities for the business. And now, you, as a business owner, as an MSP, I can tell you firsthand, if my level one's doing more, value adding activities and making me more money, I'm happy.
Absolutely.
Right. So that's what we're really trying to create. We're trying to get the people that are taking the phone calls to like the level 0, because we're doing a big element of triage now, and there's huge. We're doing a huge uplift in our triage modeling. So, basically from level 0 triage, L1, L2, we're really trying to get those group of people and say, how can we get you guys doing tasks in the MSP that are going to be, revenue generative, right? Or are going to help with things like customer retention, right? So like one of the questions I ask a lot of MSPs is like, how many times has your level 1 service desk guy rang one of your customers and just said, hey, how you doing? Without a ticket being, they're like, never.
I was going to say, yeah.
They're like,
That's
never.
crazy.
That never happens. I'm like, well, imagine if they had the time. I said, it doesn't happen because they don't want to do it. I said, it doesn't happen because they don't have the time.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right. So imagine if you give a level 1 engineer the time to be able to ring, a customer and go, hey, I'm just checking in, seeing how you're doing. And they're like, oh, are you my new account manager? Nope. Just checking in on you, seeing how you're doing. If I can help you out with anything, how's your weekend? Right. You create multiple touch points in your MSP from a relationship perspective. And now when, John, your account manager, leaves, he doesn't tail the customer out with him, because the customer's going to look at it and go, I know Rodney, he's, they're level 1 Rodney, he rings me all the time. I know the level 2 guy, he talks to me all the time, even if I don't have a ticket, so, and, that coupled with the fact that, man, they're doing the ticket so fast compared to what they used to. Like, well, why would I go anywhere? So it really changes the customer's mentality and allows you as an MSP to create more touch points in your organization. Yes, there's a opportunity to cut costs via labor, but the people that or stop labor costs, but the people that remain in the business, they're going to have a hell of a lot more time as well. Right. So you can get them doing some really, really exciting things. Because P is doing the heavy lifting of, especially of all those mundane tasks.
Yeah, I almost didn't even think it that way, and that you're right. I mean, it's optimization, but it's enhanced optimization. And then, if you're getting into this zone where you're retooling or reteaching, what it means to be, on the service desk, it's almost like proactive, almost it's real customer service, right? And engagement. That's a really interesting place to be as an MSP. And I can imagine, to your point, I mean, CSAT and retention and all those metrics go through the roof at that point.
Absolutely. Right. So that's another metric that we're really working on. And probably we're trying to scientifically provide, probably next 6 or 7 months, basically a CSAT board for the MSP for all their customers, based on the urgent, how, wording of how a ticket's coming in, the use of periods in a sentence, like exclamation mark, like there's a lot that we can pick up and provide a, customer sentiment board and flag, various situations. So we're actually looking to do automation around customer sentiment, and being able to then provide a workflow that initiates the service manager, the account manager, in communicating to that customer, right? So like one of the things we could see is potentially we could say, your average customer ticket intake from this particular customer is, 3 tickets a day. They've put in 7 a day, and it's 1 p.m. Right. So like our advice through the customer sentiment board would be, tell the account manager to call them, make sure they're cool, get the service manager to ring them and say, hey, just letting you know we're across your 7 tickets. Bang, customer sentiment goes up, communications there. Get on the front foot with it. So we're looking to provide that too as a part of the product, and as a part of what we're doing. So we're really trying to shape everything we're doing around, service desk or, elements of service for the MSP. So, the next bit of the product that we want to release is, knock, so peer knock. And basically what that's going to do is, provide we don't want to provide, I guess, what we refer to as a traditional sense, which is still quite new, where, you subscribe to a knock service and they give you a bunch of people overseas, for example, right? That's not what we want to do. We want to provide you with the automation of knock events, right? So like server events, desktop and PC events that are popping up that, fly under the radar that, you look at and you go, oh yeah, that's just some noise, or the ticket sits there sometimes for, 2, 3, 4 weeks, 6 weeks. It makes your board look all messy, so we actually want to automate not only communicating those events through the organization, we want to do the full end-to-end remediation of those events if we can. Backup events and alerts. Like one of the other products we're looking to build out is, how do we get, 99.999% recurring success rate on a backup without engaging an engineer, right? Getting peer to actually, do the analysis on the corrupted backup and rerunning it and testing it. And, did that work? Oh, well, it worked 72%. Now it's at 90%. Let's have a look at another way to do this. And peer actually, getting the success rate a lot higher for you and your end customer. Wow. Right. So that's another piece of the product, that knock piece. So the backup will fall under sort of that knock piece as well. And then we got peer firewall and peer SOC down the track, which we want to release. Not peer being an actual firewall itself, but providing you with, a resolution, automated resolution to the top, say, 5 firewall brands in our sector. So you guys don't have to have some, high spec security engineer sitting there, waiting for a port to be opened from the outside and an event to come up going, hey man, this port's not meant to be open. And, like I said, that guy being at lunch or having a cigarette, missing the alert, 2 minutes is too long in that instance.
Yep.
Right. So like these guys in some cases miss it for an hour, miss it for 2 hours because they're at lunch, or, they're having a cigarette or coffee break, which is understandable, right? They're human.
Sure.
Right. But what peer can do is actually identify the alert, start the remediation, block it, not only block what, I guess the criminal's trying to do, but, then actually remediate and fix it all without the engineer having to be there. And I know there's bits of that happening now for particular firewalls and auto remediation around that, but we're really looking to take it to the next level where it's, end to end, and, what's the next level of cause and effect outside of the firewall, right? So like all these guys are remediating potentially what they do with their firewall, but, what's the next steps out of that in terms of communicating that back to the end customer, automating the, security incident report, right? Taking that to the next level all the way to the end customer. So, we're doing some really cool things, man. It's really
I'm sitting here processing it. I love how you're in a very smart way layering it on, and kind of going up the value chain. I mean, that's kind of start with, kind of the significant impact. They're all significant all the way up the value chain, but you're starting with, kind of that optimizing at that lower end and then building up. I mean, there's so much that you can build around that.
We're starting with the most simple things that should be automated, and they're the biggest pain points, right? The most simple things cause the most pain in the organization in terms of volume of pain, So like we're really focused on taking away the volume of pain away, and then we'll work together in terms of the intricacies of what's, what we can improve in your business next. So besides what we're building out of the box, we can offer bespoke consulting services to get you there faster as well. If you want to actually enhance your automation, we can work with, if you've got internal automation engineers, we can take it's very much a partnership approach where we can actually see what the automation engineers building and deploying in peer for that MSP's customers, and we can provide advice and guidance right? Or we can say, man, maybe, maybe don't build that out yet, because I'm not sure if you read our last release, but in 2 weeks, that's going to be, or 4 weeks, that's going to be available out of the Pia box. So like maybe focus on developing something else that we're not doing. And that's resonating well with the community.
I now see why you were going to call it omelet. Got all the ingredients, right? You get so many puns, so many, smart. I'm not a marketing expert by any stretch, but there's so many spin-offs or puns or whatever. So, Well, look, you guys are just, I can't believe it's only been 11 months, because I feel like I've been hearing about you guys. You guys are all over. I see you all over the place, which is certainly a good thing. And it sounds like the industry is responding exceptionally well to what you guys are doing. So, because you guys say good on you for that.
Yeah, man. Like we're getting a lot of uptake. Obviously, with any business, I'm not, it's not all rainbow, blue skies and rainbows. It's it's challenging. Working with MSPs. There's a lot of MSPs that do things different out there. Working with them to get Pia, working optimally in their business is what we do, and we love the challenge, right? And those of us and those MSPs out there that are coming on the journey, that are there for the long run, they're the ones that are really going to see, a huge advantage being an early adopter of the technology. In 2 or 3 years, the guys that have subscribed to Pia, in the last 12 months, they're going to be miles ahead of anybody that's, onboarding Pia for the first time in 24 or 36 months. So, AI technology, automation, and RPA, it's a progressive technology. So like the earlier you put it in your business, the further you can progress.
Yeah.
Right. So
well, you guys are absolutely in the right spot at the right time. So well done to you.
Thanks, Kevin, man. Like, coming from you, that means a lot. I know you've had a lot of success in the space, so I appreciate that.
Well, we're all trying. So, well, hey, appreciate it. Enjoy. I see the sun's coming up there. Enjoy your day there. I'm gonna try to get out. It's actually pouring here. We've got an event this evening, a local event, so this should be interesting. But it's on the water, so we'll see how it goes.
I really appreciate it, Kevin. And look, we've got a whole team flying, from around the world at the Kaseya Datto event in Dublin. So, anybody watching this that's in Dublin and wants to go and say hello to the team, make sure that you go out there and do so. You'll be
Awesome.
you'll be very pleased with the tech and what they can share with you.
Yes, sounds like you will be. Absolutely. Cool. Thank you, sir. Enjoy your day.
See you, my man. Bye.
Yep.